All right. Well, welcome everybody to our first real live on Facebook. I'm here with Brian Gawne, who is our VP of Community Relations. And we are really excited to talk about scholarships. We have a lot of scholarship deadlines coming up in the next week. So, Brian, welcome to Facebook Live.
Thanks, Lisa. Lisa Kelly from our communication staff. I'm Brian Gawne. I'm our VP for Community Relations. Been with Foundation for about 10 years. Just a little background. I previously served on the Naval ROTC National Selection Board for scholarships for 2 years. I've been on a congressional selection panel for nominations to the Naval Academy. I was the professor of naval science at George Washington University for NROTC for 4 years. And most importantly, I've been through the scholarship process as a parent for my 3 kids. And so I can speak from both sides of the fence.
Yeah, which is awesome. And it's pretty recently that your kids have been through this process and you know the struggle that the parents are going through right now.
Parents and the students, there's a lot of angst out there. And our scholarship deadlines are coming up 1 week from today. So let's talk about those programs. We have 3 programs that we support. We have our own Scholarships for Military Children program, our Heroes Legacy Scholarship for Children of the Fallen and 100% disabled. And we also provide a grant to National Military Family Association's wonderful scholarship program. And then at the end, we can talk about our own scholarship search engine to find other scholarships as well.
That's great. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about what the difference is between Scholarships for Military Children and the Heroes Legacy Scholarship?
Sure. You know, the Scholarships for Military Children program is for children of active duty, Guard or Reserve service members or military retirees. So basically, if you're a dependent of either active duty or retired military service member, and that you're under the age of 23 and unmarried, you can apply for our scholarship.
So as a child of a military service member, is there any requirement that that they need in order to apply to be eligible?
Yeah, great question. And the first thing I would do to everybody is if you want to follow along or open another window on your computer or whoever, if you can, or write this down, our scholarship website is militaryscholar.org. Let me say that again, militaryscholar.org. Or you can go to the Fisher House website, fisherhouse.org/programs, and that has links to our scholarship programs on there. And I would say before any scholarship program, if you can find their website and paw through that before you dig into it. Lots of times they'll tell you all the eligibility requirements and nuances of the program, and when the deadline is, which is really important. And in our case, on both our programs for Heroes Legacy and Scholarships for Military Children, we have frequently asked questions, FAQs, which is always a great thing to dig into when you're scratching your head, like, do I qualify for this or not? So before I do that, one short advertisement for Fisher House Foundation. We do have the scholarship programs. Our main mission is building Fisher houses. We have a network of 91 Fisher houses all across the country and a couple overseas that support VA and military medical centers where the families of patients can stay for free while their loved ones receive treatment. That's our primary focus. Of course, our founder, Zach Fisher, greatly valued education. And that's why we have these scholarship programs today to help military families.
It's great. Just another way of helping out the families.
Our Scholarships for Military Children program, the one we talked about before for children of active duty and retired, it's a competitive merit-based scholarship. We will give out 500 scholarships this year. Each one of those is worth $2,000. So that's $1 million. Wow. In that program alone we'll be doing for scholarships. We do this in concert with our partner, the Defense Commissary Agency. This was originally funded by grants from commissary vendors. We still do that, but we've opened it up to get some more supporters. And by the way, we're always looking for donations to the program. If you're a company out there and looking for a worthy cause to help scholarships for military children. Our program, you can apply online at our website, militaryscholar.org. The eligibility requirements are on there. And let's talk about eligibility. You need to be a full-time student, military dependent, as we said. And the way we check that is on your application, you have to add the number on the back of your ID card. So you need to have the U.S. Services ID card or a dependent ID card. Now, right now with COVID, some of the centers, like some students out there, their card may have expired. The Department of Defense has actually extended beyond the expiration date to June 21st. So you can apply if your card just ran out, you have till June 21st, even though our deadline is a week from today. As long as you update your card and get it in by June 21st, you would still qualify for the program if you're selected. Students need a 3.0 at least grade point average for a high school student, and college students 2.5. And then the other piece of this is because the commissary is our partner, the student would select on their online application, you know, the commissary where the family would shop or the nearest one to them. And that way, when we divvy out those 500 scholarships, every commissary that had at least one student, you know, select them, would get a scholarship. And then we apportion the rest of the scholarships out based on the number of students that selected that commissary. So if there were, so if, you know, you're in a small military station and, you know, up in the woods and they only get one applicant, that student's really lucky. If you're at another really busy base and there's, you know, 40 applicants, you know, that we'll portion that out accordingly.
Now, if somebody doesn't have a valid ID card, how can they get one or know that they are eligible for one?
Well, they can go to the rapid sites. DEERS, they need to be enrolled in DEERS, the defense, you know, program. I won't even give you the acronym right now. But there's also a site called Rapid Sites, S-I-T-E-S. Okay. And you can go in there and it'll tell you exactly what you need. And not only that, it'll tell you locations of where you can get an ID card.
Perfect.
And numbers, so you can call them up, because lots of times people only know about their, you know, the base where they live and personnel at that station. But there are oftentimes, especially in military communities like, you know, DC or San Antonio, there may be lots of places you don't even know about where you can go to get an ID card.
Well, that's great. And then what about the Heroes Legacy program?
Okay, you know, the Heroes Legacy program was started after 9/11 to recognize those that had, you know, made tremendous sacrifices, you know, those who had given their life in the service of our country, or those who've been badly injured. This program is for those who, children of those who died in service, or those who received traumatic servicemen group life insurance. You get a very serious injury that you may recover from, but if you qualified for that at one time, or if you received a 100% service disability from the VA, 100% disability rating. Those are the three requirements as a military child to apply. Again, we use the ID card because if you fall in that category, you would qualify for the 100%, or if your parent died, you'd still be entitled to those benefits. It's, again, 23 years and under, unmarried, GPA 3.0 and 2.5. This program, not quite as competitive as the other. The other, we have 500 scholarships and do 2,000. For this program, it depends each year. It depends on the number of scholarships we get and the number of donations we get for the program. So last year, we had 647 students and we gave out 2,000. So hopefully, you know, we'll get the same amount of donations to keep that. Again, just like the Heroes Legacy, it's a one-year scholarship, but you can apply through all 4 years of college. So if you are a full-time student in a 4-year degree, and that's the requirement, you need to be working towards the degree. You can go to a community college as long as it's a program that will lead into a 4-year degree. If you happen to be an architect or a very unique thing, one of those where it is a 5-degree program, those students, the few students who get there, we would let them apply for a 5th year.
Okay, great. And is it the scholarship used only for tuition, or is it also for room and board?
That's a great question. It's tuition. Our focus is really on tuition and books and fees. And with that, we get this question often. Well, what if I'm going to the Naval Academy or the West Point or Kings Point? Unfortunately, if you're going to Service Academy, you don't qualify, because the good news is those students don't pay tuition.
Right. Absolutely. And when are the checks? How does that process work when notification and
So
checks?
the scholarship deadline is, a week from tonight.
Yes.
And then we have a company we use called Scholarship Managers, independent scholarship service agency, and they process those. They're going to go through all the applications and grade them out. And then it takes them a while. We probably get thousands of applications to pick those students. And then by June 1st, they will notify. For the Scholarships for Military Children program, we'll post the 500 names on our website by commissary. They'll send out letters, and similarly, they'll send out letters to the Heroes Legacy recipients.
Great.
So they find out June 1st, and then August 1st, we would send out the checks. And when we send out the checks are made out to the university, but sent to the student. So it's important, and this for any scholarship program, that the application, the address you put on your application, make sure that's a good address. Lots of military families move, so they might be applying now, but if the scholarship checks are mailed out in the summer, if you're a recipient, you need to just let the scholarship agency know, hey, I moved, or we moved to Fort Bragg. Here's our new address, and keep those folks up to date, because you want to get that check.
Right, absolutely.
Overseas or wherever.
Right. And is the check made out to the school or the student?
It's made out to the school. So but it's sent to the student. So if a student calls us up and said, hey, my university never got our check, well, you probably didn't give it to them because we sent the check to you. But we understand sometimes things get lost in the mail. We track that, we can tell. But we work very closely with the universities. One of the really interesting questions this last year was with COVID. Some of the students deferred, and they said, I'm not comfortable, my school isn't program.
Right.
And so we did, I would say, less than 5% of the students actually deferred their scholarship a year.
Okay. Well, that's great. And okay, so what about GI Bill, people who are in terms of the Heroes Legacy Scholarship?
Great question. We have a limited amount of funds for this program, and as I say, we're there to pay. Our scholarship, we want them to use it towards tuition. The nice thing about the GI Bill is that will pay tuition, full tuition for an in-state school, or match like in-state tuition if you're going to a private university. If you're going to Rice or Vanderbilt or whatever, they'll usually match the tuition in that state. So if you're going to an in-state school and your parent has, passed on their GI benefits to you, you may be covered. Of course, for the normal student, military child, your sponsor gets one scholarship, and he can use it himself, or she can use it himself, or they can divvy out among the kids. So if you got one kid and you want to pass it on, it's easy. If you got two, you may have to portion up. So there probably is a gap there how they cover. For the Heroes Legacy students, particularly those that have lost a parent, they would become the Fry Scholarship, which is a part of the GI Bill scholarship specifically for children of the fallen. And that way, each child would be able to draw on that scholarship. There again, the big gap is if they're going to a private school. If you're going in North Carolina, tuition may be $8,000, but if you're going to Duke, you've got about a $32,000 gap each year. So there's definitely need. Our big concern is if you've got the GI Bill, or you've got other scholarships, and all your tuition is met, we ask students that if they could just decline their scholarship so we can help someone else that doesn't have that. And we do get that. There's a lot of great
Absolutely.
students that apply for this program. One thing about military kids, they're disciplined, they've got, engaged parents, and
Yes.
it's a very competitive program. It's amazing that the students, when you look at their profiles of who we select. Now for the profiles, we'll look at their academics. We look at their achievements, what they've done, schools they're working on, or what school activities they're working in, sports or student council, work, and those type of things. And then both scholarships have an essay, and it's the same essay for both programs if you're applying for both. And you can apply for both programs.
Oh, great.
So if you are qualified for the Heroes Legacy Scholarship, you're likely also qualified for the Scholarship for Military Children program as well.
Oh, great.
But double check. Once again, militaryscholar.org has all those eligibility requirements on there.
Yes, and then next week is the deadline, so make sure you get that in there.
It is an online application process. We switched over a couple of years ago, and that's worked really well for us. The student goes in, they create an account, that way they don't have to do it all at one sitting. They can start it and come back. And you do have to do a new account each year. But the good news is, particularly because we do ask for some documents. Each year you have to submit your transcripts, either high school or your college transcripts. And then, for the Heroes Legacy, you have to send in some documents that validate your sponsor status.
Okay.
If you're a recipient for that program once, you don't have to resubmit that. You'll have to upload it the first time you apply, but if you're reapplying, it should be in the system already.
Great. And then, so tell us a little bit about the other scholarship program that we work with the National Military Family Association.
National Military Family Association is a great organization, nmfa.org. And, we had scholarships and people asked us, well, what if you've got this for children? What about spouses? And we looked into it and we realized, hey, there's already somebody doing this and is doing a really good job. And rather than a great program, we do a grant to NMFA, the National Military Family Association. And they have a wonderful scholarship program. And the really remarkable thing about their program is that they recognize that most military spouses aren't going to go off to like Penn State and do a 4-year full-time program. I mean, they're engaged.
Right.
Many of them have careers and things like that, and they're looking for continuing education. So to qualify for the program, obviously you have to be a spouse of a military service member. So, married to active duty, reserve guard, medically retired, wounded or fallen service member. If you're a dual military family, you would qualify. If your spouse is military and you're military, you could apply. If you're divorced, if you fall under the 20-20-20 rule, so if you were married to them for 20 years of the 20 years of military service, you could qualify as long as you weren't remarried. But as far as using the degrees, here's the really neat thing. I mean, it's most spouses aren't applying, as I say, for a 4-year full-time student. They can use the funds towards degrees. They can use it towards certifications, licensure, like whether you're a teacher, nurse, military spouses move from state to state.
Right.
Clinical supervision for medical health licensure, continuing education, business expenses, and more. And that's one of the really neat things is that they recognize some spouses may have their own businesses. They'll work with them in some of those needs so they can do direct sales buy-ins, help with inventory and merchandise, business marketing, branding, supplies, permits, and those type of entrepreneurial things to help them get started. So it is a great program. And
That's amazing.
Every year we get invited by NMFA to meet some of the spouses that receive the scholarship. And it is just absolutely remarkable the work they're doing. One of the really neat things is they're in the military community, so they want to give back. So some of them are teachers, some of them are doing counseling, some of them, all these, it's paying back to the military community. Really remarkable.
That's great. And that's at militaryfamily.org. People can check that out and apply.
Or they can go to our webpage,
Or they,
militaryscholarships.org, and click on the military scholarship page, and it'll take them right there.
that's right. Absolutely.
And by the way, what I didn't say is their scholarship kind of varies depending on what you need. It's a from 500 to about 2,500. I think the average is about 1,000. And the nice part about that one is it's a rolling admission. You can apply any time of the year. They award 4 times a year in January, April, July, and October. And so, all the students that applied in that quarter, they'll make their selection, and then they'll announce that quarter's recipients, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, they'll get a check.
That's awesome. Now we have gotten a few questions. Military Family Association just posted. Hey guys. So we have a question about the scholarship. Can the scholarships combine with other scholarships that the student might receive?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The only thing, as I say, we ask, in fact, I'm going to talk about this at the end. You're silly if you only apply for one scholarship. We've got
right.
for you to find other scholarships.
Exactly.
But we ask that, hey, if your tuition's met, please. And here's an interesting piece. I talked about the GI Bill. Let's say that tuition was $10,000 and the GI Bill was covering that, and you got a $2,000 scholarship from Fisher House. When you take the university isn't going to go, oh, you got $12,000 scholarships. Here's $2,000 back. What they're going to do, the government will always make the universities take all those other scholarships first before they tap into the GI Bill. So in that case is they would use our 2,000 scholarship, and then they would take 8, only pay the university 8 for the balance then. So
wow, that's really interesting.
That's why we have students think about that. If you've got it covered, let us help another student. And we do have a wait list, the students that don't get it accepted, the next person up, because some students, don't know if they're going to get accepted to the Naval Academy until later this spring, or West Point or Air Force Academy. And so we often get, hey, I got selected, thank you very much. And then scholarship managers will go to the next worthy student that list, and then they get a nice phone call in the spring.
That's great. Yeah. And like you said, we actually have a space where people can go in and find those other scholarships. We want you to find other scholarships. We want you to apply to more than just the scholarships that Fisher House have. And so we have a way to do that. Can you tell us about that?
We've got a scholarship search engine. And the nice part, there are other scholarship search engines out there. There's FastWeb, the College Board has one. There's others, but this one is tailored specifically to military families or people with a tie to the military. And that's nice because you can look through College Board and those other things, and there's a bazillion scholarships, but you're also competing with every other kid in America. If you can find one that just for military kids, you probably narrowed down your competition an awful lot. It's an online program we started a couple of years ago, and basically we decided that, hey, we could invest this much more in our scholarship program, or we could invest in the search engine and provide a lot more information, because there's a lot of scholarships out there that people just don't know about, and this is a way to find them. In our scholarship database, there's over $10 million worth of scholarship programs that come up. Now, some of them are very specific, like this one is for children of someone whose parents served as an Army Ranger, or this one was for, someone that served in naval aviation, whatever. But there's some that are also very broad. So you basically go to the online page, once again, militaryscholar.org. You look for our scholarships for service link, and then go into there. You'll enter some of your personal information. Where do you want to go to school, or what state, any demographics about yourself, because some of these scholarships may be very particular in the audience they're looking for. And then, hit the button and send, and then it's going to list out pages and pages, basically a one pager on each scholarship with the link for their web page, or who you contact to apply, and some of the basic eligibilities. Now, we try and keep that, the service we get tries to keep that as up to date as possible. there may be nuanced changes in the eligibility, but it's probably going to have the right link for you can go directly to their site and apply there.
Yeah, and that's great, and it saves it for you. And one thing I love about that search engine also is that it also applies to spouses and even veterans sometimes. It shows scholarships for everyone.
Yeah, that one really is for families. Everybody can take a crack at that one. The other nice part is, while our scholarship, the deadline is a week from tonight at midnight Pacific time. A lot of other scholarships, they may have later deadlines than that. And I would just remind everybody out there that most scholarship programs, if you got a son or daughter that is applying to college and they're looking to go into school next year, and you haven't given a lot of thought about how am I going to pay for this, I'm going to do that, and they haven't started looking for scholarships, they need to, and they need to do it right now, because just like us, most scholarship programs have got to get that information now so they can sift through and make their selection so they can notify the student, this spring, because ideally scholarships, they'd love to have it off to that student so they know, so that their high school graduation award ceremony, they can acknowledge that scholarship or whatever. So, February and March are really the hot spots for scholarships. If you wait till April or May, a lot of them are already closed. Now, that said, there are some on our search engine. You can't specifically search for that. You'd have to pop through, but you can do that. The other neat thing is you can change. You can go in and say, I want to go to school in, Illinois. You know what? I really don't care where I go to school. And then the next time you do it, it'll open it up. And I would suggest to students, when you do this, you do it several different times, because you may just get a little more, or you may get like so many scholarships that you're like, okay, I need to narrow this down a little bit. So I play with it. You can create an account. We do not collect any information on the students. This is one of the big differences between our scholarship search engine and some of those other commercial ones, is they're getting your information and they're collecting it and they're going to market it and do whatever. We don't collect anything. The only reason we ask that you need to give your email so that you can log back in, or you have to set up accounts so you can log back in and download a PDF of all of the stuff you have. But we're military families ourselves. We're not in the market of making your life miserable by selling your information.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, so you've been doing this for so long. Is there any tips or guidelines you can give to students and parents about just general applying for scholarships?
Well, first off, let me tell everybody that's watching this, please don't wait till next Tuesday night at midnight to submit. Always submit early. Try and submit early. Hey, trust me, I know. I remember my kids driving over to someone's house to drop off the scholarship the night before the day had expired. That's not what you want to do. You want to be able to relax. Most scholarships have an essay. And oftentimes, and particularly for ours, that's often one of the most important parts of the application, because military kids, they probably have good grades. They're probably doing lots of activities. They may be involved in sports. They may have a job. They may babysit. They do whatever. So what's going to be the tiebreaker is going to be that essay. And first off, it's a question. Number one, answer the question. Number two, if it says 500 words, don't make it 1,000 words, but write more than 100 words. Don't do it on your phone. I would sit down, write it in like a regular Word program, Microsoft Word or whatever, spell check it, grammar check it, make sure it's all good before you upload it to the website. Give yourself the best chance you possibly can. And of course, just a reminder, any parents out there, we want your student to fill this out. Our requirement is the student fills out the application. That's one. And the other is, as I say, keep looking. We've got the scholarship search engine. Look at other scholarship search engines. Heck, just do a web search for scholarships for military. I would also say go to your guidance counselor, because they'll know about local. There may be scholarships within your school or whatever. If your parent is a member of the of AUSA in the Army, or the Navy League, or the American Legion, or the VFW, or the Knights of Columbus, lots of those fraternal organizations have their own scholarship programs, and those are like, maybe $500 or $200, but if I just had to write an essay to get $500 or $200, I'd write the essay.
Absolutely.
I will say, so we have some great partners in this. I talked about NMFA. One of the other great partners, particularly for those students and families that are looking at the Heroes Legacy Scholarship for Children of the Fallen, and when I say Children of the Fallen for the Heroes Legacy, that doesn't mean somebody had to die in combat. Someone who died in service, be it cancer or whatever, they qualify for that program, as well as the 100% disabled. But the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors, TAPS, has a very, very comprehensive database of resources that are available for students that fall in that category. It was actually founded, or the key person that helped build a lot of that up. She was a Gold Star daughter herself, and she knew how hard it was. In fact, she not only lost her father, while she was in college, but her mother passed away too. And the university was like, "Hey, we're so sad, but we need to chat." So she scoured, network and resources and found scholarships, and was very passionate about and built up a great program. And today, as I say, Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors has one of the best resources in the country. Though they know particular states, additional resources states may have.
That's great.
Great program.
Yeah, and I believe they're at taps.org. That's their site.
TAPS.org.
I believe so, yeah. And what do you think judges, give us a little inside scoop about what do you think judges and universities are looking for?
Yeah, great question, because they're both looking for the same thing, Lisa. And I used to use the acronym CLASS. They're looking for character. They're looking for leadership, academics, sports, and service. And sports, sports, when I say sports, that could also be doing a job or things like that. They want a good person, character. Everybody's looking for a leader. They want someone that's going to stand up. We in the military particularly like leaders.
Absolutely.
Academics, I keep reminding people all the time, it's a scholarship. That as we have a minimum GPA, and people ask, like, we believe in scholars. It's rewarding students because we want them to succeed in college. And then just sports and service. But I will tell you that universities will look at, maybe you can't play in a sport, but because you're working a job, because you're helping your parents, or because you've got a brother or sister that maybe has special needs, and so you're helping babysit. Those are the type of pieces that they don't ask on a scholarship application. So if you've got a chance for an interview, or maybe you can just give a hint of that in your essay about your unique situation. Single parent families, particularly for military students. If you're not competing with other military students, the fact that you have a parent that's deployed for 6 months or 9 months and you've been alone, that's a big deal.
Absolutely.
When I say character, showing character, that you're able to succeed and do all these things while you work through a pandemic, military deployments, 6 or 7 moves. Universities want people who are going to be successful. That's who they want to come to the university, because they want them to be successful so that they're famous and rich and they can write checks and name the university library after them someday. Or there'll be people that maybe they don't become rich, but they're key contributors to society and they reflect well upon that university.
Absolutely.
That's what people who have scholarships want, the same way. They want someone who they'll be proud to say, hey, we helped them get there.
Absolutely. I love that, CLASS. That's a good thing to remember. And are there any other key takeaways that you would make sure you leave everybody with before we kind of start wrapping things up? And
you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so it is a fair amount of work. You probably can't fill out 100 scholarship applications. You just don't have the time. I would say, if you're going to, as I say, do multiple scholarships, but do it in an organized way. You've probably taken the SAT or the ACT. Make multiple copies of that in case you need to include it in the application. Letters of recommendation are absolutely key. And I would recommend, it's kind of late now if you're applying for scholarship, but you want to do that early. If you are a junior in high school or you're a parent of a junior in high school, the end of this year, you have your student right when the day class gets out or the week school gets out, you go to your teachers and say, hey, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith, over the course of the summer, here's a little resume I've given you on myself. Would you be willing to do a reference letter for me that I can use for college applications and for scholarships?
Right.
If you do that in May, the teacher has all summer to get you that letter. And they'll probably spend a lot of time because they'll appreciate the fact you gave them so much time to do it. If you wait until October 29th and they've got to do their application, you and all the other kids that threw it on their desk and said, please, will you do this, that thing? They're probably not going to spend as much time on your letter of recommendation. So that's the type of things, the same type of things that you do to apply to college, getting your resumes together and letters of recommendations are the same type of things you'll need for the scholarship. So build a binder, make copies of those things so you can use them more than one time.
Make sure you check out the FAQs on the website and all the eligibility requirements. We have one question that just came in asking if lower income students are any more or less considered for the scholarship.
Scholarship is a merit-based scholarship. It's not based on financial need. That's one of the nice parts about it. But there are a lot that are. So I would, in that case, look at FAFSA, look at those, and if you can target those, that may increase your chances of the scholarship.
Yeah, which also means that we're not looking at rank of anyone.
No, we don't. We don't ask rank. We don't ask ethnicity. That's all. Afterwards, we may do that just because we want a kind of a demographic to make sure that what our folks are represented. But the folks that make that judges don't see any of that.
That's great to know. It's just solely based on merit.
Yep.
Well, that's great. It looks like those are all the questions for right now. This is being recorded. We're going to have this up on Facebook as well as put it up on YouTube so that we can answer any questions. And we'll also have somebody going on Instagram next week so that we can answer any more questions, and we'll be online to answer anything. And again, always check out the FAQs. Pretty much most of the answers are already on there, hopefully. militaryscholar.org.
Yep, militaryscholar.org. 1 week to the deadline for our scholarships. Remember, NMFA spouse scholarship, you can apply all year long. And then check out our scholarships for service search engine for other scholarships beyond what we offer. And good luck to everybody out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us.